Good morning, my fellow Africans and the world at large. This is Emmanuel Okojo once again coming into your homes and your minds with a message of empowerment and enlightenment all the way from Ontario, Canada. Today is the 14th of October in the year 2022, and the Bible says this is the day the Lord has made. We should rejoice and be glad in it. And for that matter, I take this opportunity to invite the whole world, any man or woman listening to me or hearing my voice, to join me to give thanks to God for the day that He has granted unto us. And life in general, life is beautiful, life is wonderful, life is glorious, life is God Himself flowing through all things, including mankind. Today, I'm going to speak to you on the topic, the symptoms of mental incarceration. I repeat, the symptoms of mental incarceration. Today, I'm speaking to you on this topic, and I want to make this clarification. When I talk of mental incarceration, I'm not talking of people who are in mental health issues, people who are disturbed in mind, that they need the surgery or they need the medical doctors and others to attend to them. But I'm talking about mental incarceration, which is applicable to all men in terms of how we use our minds. So we are mentally incarcerated when you are abusing your mind or you are not using your mind at the capacity, the level at which it's supposed to be. And therefore, you need to emancipate yourself from that. And that is why Marcus Garvey wrote that we need to emancipate ourselves. And then later on, Bob Marley, in his song, Redemption Song, also made the same statement that emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And so our discussion is on the mental slavery, mental incarceration. Who are the people that are mentally incarcerated? And we're going to look at some of the symptoms or behaviors that we men and women actually shows that depicts this kind of situation in their life. And so we know that the word emancipate is to set free. And therefore, when you are incarcerated, that means you are in bondage. You need to be set free. And when you are set free, or you have the freedom, then that means you have the ability and the power to do whatever thing that you want. And so the human being is a powerful being, as I have always been saying. And amongst God's creation, the human being is the only entity that has been given a mind that he can use to generate thoughts. And based on his thoughts and actions to improve himself or herself. And therefore, this is the only feature that separates us from the lower animals. Apart from that, we function in the same way as the animals. The human being has the ability to generate thoughts. And as a result, he's able to transform himself from one level to the other. And that is why the Bible says that be ye transformed by the renewal of your minds. It's not about the renewing of your legs, your arms, or whatever, but it is about your mind. And so if you are unable to renew your life, you're not able to improve yourself by constantly renewing your mind, that means you are mentally incarcerated, that you need to be emancipated. And so if you look at our lives, men and women, you will realize that almost everyone is suffering from this disease. And only a few people have been able to actually work on themselves to move themselves to another level. And then even in this kind of mental incarceration, we have degrees. Some people are not completely submerged in it. Others too are completely in it. And so we're going to look at this in our perspective as Africans. How are we actually using our mind? Are we mentally incarcerated, or we have managed to emancipate ourselves from this disease, which our great men have spoken about it extensively. And as a matter of fact, I remember I listened to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's speech on the day of independence. He called upon the Ghanaians that we're going to change our minds and attitude now that we are free. Unfortunately, Ghanaians and the whole Africa, we couldn't change our minds and attitude, and therefore we are still in the same situation that we used to be as at the time that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah spoke. And so, mental incarceration, the symptoms, what is it? But before that, let us look at this way. A human being's mind is like any other thing. If you take an animal and then you put it in a room, let's say a goat or a sheep, then you give it a bed. Every day you go in to change the bed for the goat. And then you make it comfortable. You feed this goat. And then you treat this animal up to a certain level. You have managed to change the behavior of this animal to the extent that at a point when you open the door and then allow the animal to go free, it will still be there because it thinks that what you have given to it is the only way that it can live. Even though you have imprisoned it, because in that room, it has no ability to move around, to roam, and to do exercise, and to live as animals. So even when the freedom has actually been given to it, it is still thinking as if that it is and still under the bondage or the control of the one that put it in the room. And so the goat will continue to behave like that, or the goat or sheep. In the same way, your mind, when you constantly train it in a certain way, and even if someone puts you in prison and they release you, you will continue to behave exactly as if you are still in prison because you haven't managed to liberate your mind from whatever situation, condition that you were going through in prison. And that is how our life is. Every human being goes through this because we go through life circumstances and situations. And the moment we establish some thoughts about situations, then we establish them as our beliefs. And once we become beliefs that are dominant in our mind, in our subconscious mind, we'll continue to behave like that, even though we may be professing on the outer that we are free. And so that is the situation that Africans, we find ourselves. And there is nowhere that you will go and speak to an African that the person will not make a reference to past events, slavery, colonialism, exploitation. And now the recent one, or which one, the one that we have developed is the Western, the advanced nations don't want us to progress. And therefore, anyone that rises up in Africa and wants to progress, they find a way to eliminate him or her. And therefore, because of these past events and situations, we have condemned ourselves to a particular condition that we believe that we do not have answer. We can never get ourselves out of that. And in that case, we are like the animal, the goat or sheep that has been fed in the room to the extent that it has become accustomed to behaving in that way. Therefore, when it is given the whole world to roam, it is still living in that small room. And that is where we are now. And this is what Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley thought of, and they appealed to the African people that emancipate yourself. Marcus Garvey in particular wrote it clearly that we are going to emancipate ourselves. That whilst others may give us freedom in the body, for our mind, no one can do that for us except ourselves. So that is where we are now. That is where we are. The African is free in body, but in mind, we are incarcerated. We are not free. And so as I spoke, if you look at the word to emancipate means simply to free the mind or to free somebody or something. And since we are talking about mind mentally, we are talking about the mind. So the free of the mind, such that the mind will be able to function and do things as is expected, is what we are talking about. And how do we put ourselves in this slavery? It is based on our beliefs. The thoughts that you generate and practice them continuously, that they become crystallized in your subconscious mind, becomes your beliefs. And it is these beliefs that defines your life, controls the way you behave, the way you see things. And so when you are not in the position to change these beliefs, then it means you are in bondage. You are putting a lid or a cap on your mind. You can no longer think outside the confines of these beliefs. And that is where Africans we are. We have established beliefs, some false beliefs that we do not have the power to control our life. We do not have the power to change our lives. And all these things can be traced back to our forefathers. I always say that we can never talk about the African equation, African situation, without looking back into history, how our forefathers actually molded and shaped our life, our personality, or the culture, the traditions that we inherited. You see, the African believes, inherently believe that he is always under the attack. He is always a victim of a certain situation, a certain circumstance, or a certain power. And therefore, our forefathers were actually living under the terror of gods that they created for themselves. And then we carry this into Christianity and Islam or whatever religions that we've adopted. So you see that every day an African is always looking for freedom, is always fighting something. And therefore, the way we're supposed to use our minds as free people, we are not able to use it. And therefore, we are crippled. There is no one in the African setup that is not suffering from this. And especially when you go on and you begin to talk to people about things that we haven't been able to do and things that we believe that we can do, then they will come up with all these examples, these excuses that, look, this person has tried, they couldn't do it. No, fast for us, that is how we are. This is how God has made us. So we've accepted that. So we are like the animals that have accepted a life that has been imposed on them. But they don't know that they have the ability to walk beyond that life. And that is what we are talking about. So every African, young or old, is mentally incarcerated. So with regards to our progress, with regards to how we are using our minds to make life meaningful and better for ourselves. So emancipate yourself is a message to every man or woman. I am not talking about academics. I'm not talking about your profession. But I'm talking about how you are using your mind and even how you've been able to use your mind to make your academic works to improve your life and other people. That is what we are talking about. So we are like cripples who have been given freedom, physical freedom, but they can't walk. We claim to have freedom. We claim to have everything. But here we are, poor, impoverished, backwards. This is who we are. And as I've already stated, there's a difference between academic knowledge and the ability to think and to do things. Academic knowledge is a tool that is given to you. But on top of this tool, you need something, you need a way of thinking that can make your academic or the tool that you have worthwhile. And that is what we are talking about. So you see that all Africans that have acquired all degrees and qualifications, we are not able to do anything outside these qualifications, outside this, because we believe that we do not have the ability to do that. We don't have the capital. We don't have this. We don't have this. We don't have this. The Western powers are controlling this and that. And so we've established these beliefs upon ourselves, beginning from the presidents in Africa to the child that is yet to be born in Africa. And this is an example. These are the symptoms of people that are mentally incarcerated because they don't have the ability to think beyond these boundaries and go on to liberate themselves. And this is the quest. This is the time that we have to rise up to begin to liberate ourselves one by one. How do we liberate ourselves? That is breaking down your beliefs. Breaking down your beliefs. The idea that the African or a human being is always under attack. A human being is always under attack is a kind of bondage. It's a theory that is more or less a bondage in the life of men and women. You are born free. You are created in the image and the likeness of God. There is no limit to the amount of thoughts that you can generate in your mind. There is no limit to the amount of things that you can do. There is no limit to your powers. But so long as you are not conscious of this and you are only thinking that you are limited, then you are actually blocking your own progress. And as I use the wheelbarrow example, a man or woman who is ignorant about how the water hose and the sprinkler works places the wheelbarrow full of sand on the water hose, blocking the water from passing to the sprinkler. Then he goes around calling people, shouting and blaming people that there is something wrong or there is no pipe running through the tap. But that is not the truth. God has given us the ability, God has given us the mind, God has given us the power to transform ourselves, our lives. That is why the Apostle or St. Paul said that be transformed by the renewal of your mind. The renewal of your mind is the constant reviewing of your beliefs. What are the beliefs that I have placed on my mind? Am I under the bondage of any evil forces? Am I under attack of any evil forces? Am I a victim of outside circumstances? So the moment you begin to take yourself out of this and now begin to believe that you are the creator of your own circumstances, you are the creator of your own life, and therefore outer circumstances don't have control over you, then you are free from all other things. Your mind is free to think. You think for yourself and act for yourself in your own powers. And that is when we say you are mentally free. You have emancipated yourself. That is what Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley actually preached. That is what they're talking about. People will give us the physical freedom, but we will still be incarcerated in our mind. And as I was saying, everyone in Africa is incarcerated mentally. Mentally, there are a lot of things that we believe that we cannot do. There's a lot of things that we believe that until we get help, until we get support from somewhere, we cannot do it. Running from the president through the traditional rulers, through the everyone is behaving exactly as it is. We do not have the ability to think and believe that we are made in the image and the likeness of God. We are born creators, and therefore it is our responsibility, it is our right to create our life favorably and wonderful for the betterment of humanity. That is the fact. So you will see that when you go to Africa, you mention one problem, then they bring this excuse. Oh, we cannot do this because of that. You mention this excuse, we cannot do this because they are this and that, because this and that. And so we are in a bubble, or we are in a kind of a barrel, like crabs, that we cannot climb out. It is because there is a lead on our minds. And this is the time that we have to free ourselves. We have to begin with our beliefs. Religious beliefs have to be pulled down. The belief that you are under attack by evil forces, witches and wizards, is number one mental incarceration or mental incarcerated symptom. Any man or woman that lives and believes that there is an evil force, there is evil, there is what do we call a witch or whatever that is taunting him or her, that person is under bondage. He cannot think. And therefore, what he is supposed to do to liberate himself, he's not doing it because he believes that whatever he's going through is the work of someone. And that is how our forefathers defined our lives. That is how they defined our lives. Everything that happens is the gods, is the whatever. And that is what we are still doing. And now we've taken it into Christianity. So you see that 99.9% of Africans are exhibiting these mental incarceration symptoms. There is no one in Africa that is not believing that remotely. Even those of us that call ourselves Christians, we confess it, but remotely we believe that there are some forces that are taunting. And that is why when we go to church, we spend almost the entire church period bombarding evil spirits and whatever. This concept of evil spirits, concept that are examples of people who are mentally incarcerated. Free yourself. You are born, you are made in the image and the likeness of God. There is no power, there is nothing against you, there is nothing that can bring you down. You are an image and the likeness of God. And once you take up this mentality, you are a free man. You are a free woman to think, to believe. As a matter of fact, if you are to think back into history, All human beings had these beliefs. And if you read back about the exploration, in the olden days, the general view was that when people sail to the North and South Pole, there is a cliff that they'll fall off and they will die. They made a lot of stories. People will go and they will not come. Some people had to break that mental bondage. And so when they took on, they went and came back and proved to mankind that whatever they had, they held as the popular view was not true. And the freed men and women, today we are crisscrossing the world without any fear of that. In the same way, the thoughts that have been put in your mind that you call your tradition, you call your culture, whatever, were the thoughts of men and women, how they understood world. They understood things, they understood the world. Now we are in an advanced world, you have to begin to break them. And when you break them, you see that these things were actually limiting you from doing what you're supposed to do. And that is exactly what Africans are doing. We spend almost our entire life praying, bombarding all nights and other things that we are praying, and praying away evil forces, praying away spiritual attacks. And therefore, our minds are no longer in use. And what do we see? Poverty, lack, and all those things. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Mental slavery is anything that limits you from using your mind in its natural form. Anything that puts fear in you is kind of a bondage, and you need to emancipate yourself. You need to confront that fear. And as soon as you confront that fear, you see that you'll be free from it. That is the truth of life. That is the truth. And Africans, we are beaten about the bush. The most educated person in Africa is the only thing that person can do is to read and write and rattle and say all these things. The person can invent, the person can create any theory, the person can do anything because he believes that he don't have the ability to do it. That is the beliefs that we've established. The most powerful person in Africa is the one that we see, maybe they say he's a chief. Then we go with that and about the chief cannot inspire his people. He cannot bring his people together and lead them to create something wonderful. That is it. The president, we sing to them, they make noise and whatever. The president cannot energize his own people and get people to create, modify their own life and then move themselves forward. But we are just doing the same recycling. So you will see that no one is free from this mental incarceration, and no one is exempted. We all need the mental emancipation, and that is we begin to question, we begin to analyze our life and breaking down every bit of false beliefs that we have put upon our lives. And we will see that our mind will begin to expand. Your mind has no limit. The one that created the aeroplane is not bigger and powerful than you. The one that discovered whatever is not powerful and bigger than you. It's just that you have put a lid on your mind. And this is the time that you have to release that lid. Take it off. Take that cap off. And let your mind expand your mind. Let it go beyond boundaries. So mental incarceration, as I was saying, almost everyone, especially those of us in Christianity, we are the number one mentally incarcerated people because there is no Christian, especially those of us in the Pentecostal and charismatic movement. We actually believe every day we are bombarding devils, we are bombarding demons. You see that your mind is not free, but God has given you the power. God has given you the freedom. Even if all these things exist, you don't have to give them the power. You don't have to busy your mind. So long as your preoccupation is praying to ward off all this evil, that means they have taken your mind. If I can cause you to think about me for more than 5 minutes, then I have taken you into captivity, good or bad. That is the truth. If any man can cause you to think about him or her, in negatively or positively for more than 5 minutes, the person has taken you into captivity. If it is good, then the person is moving you to a good person. If it is bad, it's drawing you down. And this is the time that you have to be conscious of it. Now your mind is supposed to think. Your mind is supposed to be free. Therefore, release everything that prevents you from thinking in the right direction. And it is in the right direction, thinking in the right direction, that will link you to the mind of God. That's such that you receive ideas, inventions, and other things that you bring into the world to bless men and women. Education is not that important, believe it or not. I am well educated. I schooled in Ghana. I schooled in the United Kingdom. I schooled in Canada. I have qualifications from all these places. But I'm telling you that education is not all that important. What is important is your mindset. What is important is your mindset. If you have the right mindset, you can get all the well-educated people around you and use them to become more successful than they themselves. And we are seeing this all over. And therefore, let us take off this mental incarceration. That is our beliefs in evil spirits, believe in these false theories that it is the Western nations, it is the advanced nations that they have done that, CIA and whatever we would do, anyone would do Africa, they will destroy. They are thwarting our effort. It is our own beliefs and we are recreating it. Let us rise up and begin to use our mind. Life is what? Try again. When we were young men, when we were at school, we learned a poem that says that if you try and fail, try again. It doesn't matter the number of times that we have tried and failed. Let us keep on trying. And that is when we say that we are free. We are free people thinking for ourselves, moving ourselves in the direction that we want to go. That is the truth of life. So we are going to emancipate ourselves. It's a statement made by Marcus Garvey. And this time around, we are re-echoing this statement to every man or woman listening to me. As an African, rise up and let us begin to develop our minds. Until we develop our minds and think in the way that all free men and women think, we will never be able to match up with any group of people. We are not talking about religion. We are not talking about academics. We are not talking about this book. Or no. That is not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about your qualifications. That one, they have their own places. But we are talking about crystal clear thinking. We are talking about beliefs. Believing in your own divinity, believing in your own self, the powers that God has placed in you. And it is only when you have this belief that you can rise up and say that I am a child of God. I am a man or woman, an African, and I have the right to do this. This is what is going on in the life of my people. And I want to bring this change into the life of my people. Therefore, I am devoting my time. I'm going to devote my whole life and create something beautiful and give it to my people and the world. And that is when we say we are free. We are free. As it is, no one is free in Africa. No one. You may be thinking that you are free because you are educated or whatever. No, you are deceiving yourself. If you are free, then you should be able to use your mind to think and do something beautiful and wonderful for yourself. That is the truth of mind, the truth of life. Your mind is a creative medium, and it will do anything for you. And therefore, whatever suggestion that you give to your mind, it will return the results to you. If you are always having these false beliefs, as far as we don't have it, who am I? Then we begin to take all these are symptoms of people who are mentally incarcerated. Especially when it comes to creating things, when it comes to doing things, we create some kind of weird ideas, weird excuses that we can do this, we can do that. We are mentally incarcerated. And I've always been making references to this. The Odo River in Accra, Ghana, people who are not mentally incarcerated would not sit down and look at that thing happening. But what do we see? Government upon government can declare we're going to go and seek. They have to go and look for funds. They have to go. We don't know how to generate funds. You don't have to use our own resources to generate funds to create things for ourselves. That means we are like the animals. We are not thinking beyond the normal or the ordinary thinking just for food and shelter. And this is the time that we have to set ourselves free. Young men and women, you are not under attack of any evil spirit. You are not under any attack of anyone. And no one, it is not the work of the Western nations that we are not developed. It is because of our own incompetence. So because of our low level of thinking. And therefore, let us rise up and begin to think at the highest level. And we will liberate ourselves. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery is indeed a mathematical truth. And it is a question, it's a call up on all of us to take up this challenge. That is beginning to analyze your beliefs. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of anything? Anything that you are afraid of, that thing has the power over you. And that means you are in bondage, you are incarcerated. But as far as that particular thing is concerned, you don't have to be afraid of anything, but you only have to believe in yourself, in the powers that God has given to you, and go on to mold and shape your life and make it better and let it affect other people around you. That is when you are living as a human being. Let us be ready. Let us rise up. Let us rise up, my fellow Africans. Enough is enough. We have been doing these things for far too long. That we sit down and blame other people. We sit down and give excuses. This kind of packing ourselves in churches and whatever, praying, but no results. What is the meaning of that? Prayer must bring results. And if your prayer is not bringing results, that means you are not praying to God. You are praying to something different. As a matter of fact, God is in you. And therefore, you're supposed to speak to yourself. And that is your best prayer that you can do in life. Let us rise up. The symptoms of mental incarcerated people, there is any man or woman that gives excuses, especially under the influence of fear of any past event. Any man or woman that gives excuses, that's tough to blame other people because of past event. That person is mentally incarcerated because he's allowed the past event to affect him so much that he can no longer think beyond that particular situation. And that is what we're doing. So let us rise up. We are all in this bondage. Africans everywhere, both on the continent and even those in diaspora. The Black Americans and those in Canada or whatever, we are all in a certain kind of bondage. We can never move away from the slavery issue. It is gone. No one can cut it out of our life. But we only have to repackage it and use it as a motivation to empower one another, for us to use it to bring us together, to see how best we can build our lives and give our lives a befitting image. That is the truth. Mental emancipation is all that we need in Africa. Mental emancipation is all that we need in Africa. IMF, World Bank, and whatever, we don't need their emancipation. Their support and their whatever assistance will fail because we are still in the same mindset. And the mindset is not, if the mindset is not changed, nothing will change in our life. Invoking the words of Miles Monroe, that nothing changes in your life unless your mind changes. Nothing changes in your life unless your mind changes. Let us rise up, my fellow African. Let us rise up and begin to think. Let us think, use our minds at the highest level, such that ideas and all the things that are needed to solve our problems will drop into our minds and it will pass through our experiences. And that is when we say we are developed. That is where we can say we are developed. The minds of the people is the greatest asset. Unfortunately, Africans, we are not harnessing the mind of our people. Our minds are going wayward. If you look at the behavior of the people, you see that the people who are behaving in barbaric way. People who are behaving as if we are not in our era. This is the time that we have to do away with all these things. We have to call on one another and begin to work on ourselves. You are not a victim of anything and no one is cheating you. The cheating is from your own mind. As soon as you begin to take control of your mind and having that belief and understanding that you create your own realities by the way you use your mind, you will be knowledgeable. You'll be wise to apply your mind in a better way than what you're doing now. The fact that all that we are doing is leading us to failure means that we are not using our minds. We are in bondage. The mind is in bondage. And this is the time to let the mind free, to set the mind free. This is the time to set the mind free. I can go on to give you examples of all that is happening on the African continent. You see that we are actually letting ourselves down because we are not thinking. The African is not thinking. We want quick solutions to problems. We want quick answers to problems. No, but that is not how it is. You must begin to analyze. You must begin to think. But you think as an independent person, not as a victim. But Africans are perpetual victims. If it is not evil spirit, then it is our fellow human beings, the Europeans or whatever, the British, the French people, they are doing this and that and that. These are people who are mentally incarcerated. We can't go past that. And if we say that people, our own fellow human beings, have put us in a situation that we do not have any means, we cannot use our minds to liberate ourselves, then whether you like it or not, we are place ourselves in the category of the animals who cannot think to work out things for themselves to set themselves free. But that is not what God has made us. So this is the time that we have to wake up. We have to rise up. All African, let us rise up. Let us begin to work on our mind. Let us begin to think of how we use our mind. Let us take out all the fear that we have for all this, anything. There is nothing to be afraid of. You are made, born and created in the image and the likeness of God. And God cannot be afraid of anything. This is why you need to declare to yourself and walk. If you have any idea, if you have anything that all other people are saying it will not work, don't worry about them. Go on and do it. That was what all other people did. That is what all other people, the Columbus and others, they went against the popular view. All that all others were afraid of, they took it upon themselves and approached it and defeated that ignorance. And this is the time that we have to rise up, take all these traditions, taboos, and whatever that has been given to us that we call culture, and begin to approach them one by one, destroy it, and we'll see that we'll be fully liberated as human beings who are actually the creators of their own realities, shaping and molding their life the way they want and the one they desire to be. That is the truth. That is my message for you. So let us rise up. Let us rise up. We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Whilst others may give us freedom in body, it is a mathematical truth that our mental freedom no one can give to us except ourselves. And that is a challenge upon you and I, all of us as Africans. And the mind or minds that are liberated will eventually, will automatically bring out beautiful and wonderful things to mankind and the world at large. That is my message for you. Now, may the overshadowing presence of God that keeps the stars in the open such that they do not fall on us, that keeps the planets in their orbit such that they do not clash with one another, lead and guide you, direct you, such that this message will fall on a fertile ground, an open mind and a receptive heart, that you begin to think and begin to pull down all barriers, all things that you've put upon your mind, such that you are not able to think and think right, and liberate yourself. And all of us together liberating ourselves. Africa is liberated, the black race is liberated, and ideas, inventions, revolutionary things will begin to drop out of our mind into our experiences, and Africa will be a developed and a wonderful continent. That is the truth of life. Once again, my name is Emmanuel Kojo Mensah, and I am a co-founder of the African Mental Emancipation Movement. The dream and the vision of the African Mental Emancipation Movement is the emancipation of all Africans from our mental slavery as given by Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley and all other our leaders, African leaders, gone, such that we will work with one another to liberate ourselves and allow the glory of God to begin to flow through our experiences, and it will reflect in our outer experience, such that what is in us becomes a glory and an attraction to all men and women from all walks of life. As it is, Africa It's a continent that is inhabited by only black people. That is not what God intended. And this is the time that we have to work on ourselves. We have to liberate ourselves from our mental slavery and begin to create, begin to develop, begin to create wonderful and beautiful things, such that it will be an attraction to all men and women who will come and live amongst us. And we will be, Africa will be a multiracial, a multicultural, everything that you can think of, to the glory of God. For diversity is the true glory and picture of God. Thank you, and God bless you.